Can you remember your first game at that defending trophy?
Oh, no.
You broke my heart. It was me.
Oh, thanks for that, yeah.
Hello, welcome along to the latest edition of the Tungsten Talk here at the MODUS Super Series, where we delve into the life and times of some of the greatest darts players to have ever thrown a dart. And today we're having a look back at the career of the twice World Seniors Champion, the former UK Open, former World Grand Prix, former World Masters Champion, a fair few titles in his career for the Robert Thornton. When I list off all of those big titles, all of those big tournaments, and there was still more that I haven't actually listed as well, what kind of beaming pride does that give you?
Well, to be honest with you, I mean, I've enjoyed playing in every one of them, and I think winning my first major in the PDC was probably the highlight of it.
Let's go back to the beginning and talk about darts. Where did it begin for yourself? When did you first pick up a set?
I think it was 9. My dad got me a dartboard and set of darts, and I just took it from there, and it was always up. I know I'm short, but it was always up to normal height, and I just started throwing at 9 years old. And
then when did you realise you're actually fairly okay at this game?
I watched Lakeside one year, and a couple of players were shocking.
Mm-hmm.
And I told the wife I could beat them, and she went, well, go do it then. And she kicked me out.
And there's a few players that are like that. They see something on the TV, and they just get inspired to think, actually, I'm on a par, I'm on a level with them.
Yeah, but how often does that story ever come true? It's one of those, isn't it? Like, I sit and watch the football all the time. I could do that. Like, he's rubbish. And we all have that belief, and we all have that sort of moment, but it's very rare that we find those rare talents that can actually go and do it.
So you said you watched Lakeside one year, and you said that you felt the field was rubbish and you could be competitive against it. So what were the next steps from that point in terms of...
I never said the field were rubbish.
No, some of the players.
One of the games were
one
rubbish.
Of the games. But not the field, one of the games. So when you watched that awful game, I'm assuming it was an awful game, when was the next steps in terms of thinking, right, maybe I'm going to give this a bit of a go?
Well, I started... To me, darts was a hobby. And then I started, the wife says to me, she says, well, just go start playing darts in the local league. And I did that, and it just so happened, there was a guy called John Porter in, and it was my first night out of darts. And he said he was taking me to a tournament on the Saturday, and I won it. And then he says, I'll take you to one this Sunday. And I went, no, it's just a hobby. And then I won that one and all, and I thought, do you know what, I'm pretty good at this.
Whenabouts time-wise was that when you were starting playing that kind
of stuff? Was, must have been, what, 36, 37?
So in terms of years, to duck the difference?
That was a long time.
And then from that point, when did it begin to get then truly serious? When did the next big steps come into play?
I reckon my first Lakeside debut, 2005, and then I was on the stage and I wanted more, and I thought, well, if I can do that, then there's nothing stopping me qualifying again. Then
you qualified again, and then it was a couple of years where you were doing really steady things on the BDO circuit. Then 2007 came, and the World Masters, your first real big one. The smiles there from ear to ear. Just tell us about that tournament, that experience, and winning that event.
Well, it was kind of weird because I'd felt great all through the tournament, on the floor and then on the stage, and I got to the final. I think Darryl Fitton was playing, and he'd done me rotten in Lakeside, and I thought, do you know what, he's not doing it this time. And I had the bit between my teeth, and the only way for me to qualify for Lakeside was to win that tournament.
Let's talk briefly about the nitty-gritty of it, because when we look at this in this timeline, yes, you're playing at Lakeside with the BDO World Championship. We know the finance isn't quite there. You've said already that it was a bit like a hobby at times.
Yeah.
When did it become a professional? By professional, I mean, a lot of people say professional dart player based on standard, but a professional dart player based on the fact that this is how you now earn your living.
When I moved to PDC, then it was week in, week out, I was playing darts, and that's when it became more like a job than a hobby. But I was still enjoying it, if you know what I mean. Not a lot of people enjoy their jobs, but I love this one.
Is that the key for somebody like yourself, enjoying the craft that you do to get the best results out of yourself?
Yeah, you need to enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, don't do it. I mean, it becomes a chore at times, but you've got to put that to the back of your head and remember why you first started.
As you mentioned, you made the move over to the PDC. How would you describe the first few years when you moved over?
It was hard. I mean, don't get me wrong, I mean, my first few weeks, I think, I drew Phil Taylor in the first round and kept getting beat. And then I got Steve beaten for about 6 weeks in a row in the first round, and I eventually won one, which took me away from the top 4 or 5 players in the world, and then I just started kind of kicking in a bit.
And so was it about kind of perseverance for yourself? Just keep going, keep digging it, which is kind of a trait that we see a lot from yourself.
Yeah, you've got to dig deep, but I think it's more like self-belief. You've got to believe you're in a par with these players, because if you think you're going to go up there and get beat, you're going to get turned over.
And I suppose a lot of players say the same thing, don't they, when they make that step over? Even players, I mean, Glenn Dunwant's mentioned it a little bit when he moved over from BDO to PDC. Other players that made the switch that we've spoken to say, you never quite know how difficult it is until you're physically put in that environment.
Yeah, and it's one of those where sort of even your non-seeded players are people you'd expect to play in finals on the WDF or the BDO circuit. And the other thing as well that you notice between the two arenas is sort of fear factor. There is none. No one cares who you are. No one cares what you've won. You're in there with 127 other players who are the best players in the world from wherever they come from. And that's one thing I noticed from jumping onto the BDO, the WDF circuit, and having a year over there, that actually on that circuit, you know, you come up against someone who's averaging 82, 83, oh, what a quality player he is. This is going to be a tough game. But actually, if you do that over in the PDC, you'll be lucky to win a couple of legs. Yeah. And with that, there's just literally no fear between anyone, whether it's the world number one, whether it's Luke Humphries, whether it's Michael Van Gerwen, no one cares.
And I suppose that's the biggest difference, where if you play in the BDO WDF, say like a British Open or a Scottish Open, you could probably have a couple of games to ease yourself in if you're a seed. But at PDC level, every single game would be the equivalent of a final.
Yeah, everybody thinks they're absolute. I mean, it's like you say in the BDO WDF, you go to the Scottish Open, you've got 3 or 4 rounds there before you're actually playing a decent player. And I don't mean that in any disrespect, because everybody and anybody enters it. And then you move to the PDC, and you've got to hit the floor running, because everybody's as good as everybody else. Let's
get into the meat of it. Let's get into the successful years of your career. And let's go straight into 2012. You actually said in the first part of the programme, we asked the first question, that it's probably one of the proudest achievements of your career. We'll talk about the games and the final. What particularly about that achievement made you so proud?
I think it was my first TV major since I moved to the PDC, so you're always going to be, it's going to take pride of place, if you know what I mean. And it was just the draw I had that year as well was probably one of the hardest draws you'll ever get.
Because I suppose this is kind of the story of your career. You never seemingly be able to do things the easy way, is there?
No, I always do it the hard way. I mean, I could be 5-0 in front and just 1-6-5. But there's a lot of other players like that out there.
Let's talk about the final, talk about the game against Phil Taylor. Look, obviously, whenever you're put into a final against Phil's going to go off the big favourite. He was having a really good year as well, up to that point as well. Going into that final, what were your feelings, what were your thoughts, knowing how big a game it was?
Just try and stay with him. If I get a shot at a double, then it's got to be hit. Because we know what Phil's like, scoring and finishing. I thought, well, just stay with him, you might get a chance.
And you did stick with him, and there was also a weird moment in the middle of that game as well, because the match got interrupted because somebody wanted to join you on stage, shall we say? Yeah,
some lunatic jumped over the barrier, but they got him off the stage pretty quick, and the match resumed.
How important then in that moment is focus? Because I can imagine it could be quite easy for something like that to happen, and if you're not in the zone, it can distract you for a couple of legs.
Yeah, they did ask if we wanted a break, but I was quite happy staying on the stage. Phil was the same. Didn't really interrupt as much. But as I said, they got him off the stage pretty quick and the match resumed. And
then when the winning dart went in, what were the emotions like?
It was weird, because I thought to myself, if I hit the treble 17, I know I'm going to hit the ball. And when it left my hand, I knew it was going in. And it was just surreal, if you know what I mean. It went in, and I couldn't believe it for a couple of seconds, and then realised I'd won.
And then when that feeling happens, when the referee calls game shot of the match and the trophy's lifted, what are the emotions at that point? Is it a pride, a relief, an ecstasy?
I think it's pride and relief that the match is finally over and get off the stage, and well, eventually. and go and celebrate with your family.
And that win opened up a lot of doors for yourself, particularly the Premier League, something you were part of for a few years. Just tell us your memories of your time playing in that particular competition, and what it's actually like as well, being a player that's got to do the 16-week tour. You're playing on the Thursday in the Premier League, then having to play in other tournaments at the weekend.
I thought it was amazing, to be honest with you. I mean, my first time there, I walked in and I went, what am I doing here? But then realised, do you know what, I'm here on the same merit as everybody else is, and all I can do is put up a good show, and hopefully I did that.
We'll fast forward a little bit here. We'll go to 2013. You're in the Premier League.
Yep.
You're going back to the UK Open as a defending champion. You are the front page of the programme going into that event. Can you remember your first game at that defending trophy?
Oh, no.
You broke my heart. It was me.
Oh, thanks for that, yeah. Sugar.
I was 7-5 up. Wayne Mardle's down there, all the camera crews there. They're like, what an upset this is going to be. And then he reels off like 4 legs, like 11-12, 11-13, and it over 9-7. Heartbreaking. I left that programme in my suitcase for years. Every time I opened my suitcase, I saw your face. Every time. And I was like, I've got to beat him again. I've got to beat him. I've got to beat him.
Did you beat him again?
I did, actually. The next time we played, I went 5-0 up and ended up winning 6-1. Never forget it. Never forget
that
it.
was a floor tournament, wasn't it?
It was over in Wigan.
I remember that one.
Yeah.
I remember that one.
And every leg, all I was thinking was, UK Open. Like.
So the UK Open defence did quite go to plan, but then you get another stint at the Premier League in 2014, and then the World Championship 2015, you had a decent one. How would you describe your relationship with Alexandra Palace?
Kind of in and out. I mean, I think one of the first times I was there, I had a chest infection, and I just wanted to get off, and it was one of the best averages I'd ever threw. Mm-hmm. So I like Tally Pally, a great venue. Do I miss it? Yeah. Do I want to go and try and do it all again? No, I don't think so.
And then later on that year, the World Grand Prix. Now, the bookmakers actually had you as one of the outsiders for that particular tournament. But one thing you were able to do was work your way through the field. And one thing that really did work for you in that particular competition was that double top. That seemed to go on a pinhead.
Yeah. And the best it was, for a few years, my favourite double was double 18. And I used to start that all the time, and then I switched to tops and just couldn't seem to miss it. And
it was a tournament with a great relationship. Obviously, the year before you won, you had that 9 darter, didn't you?
Yeah.
What a game that was. In terms of games you've played in your career, is that game against James one that's right up there because of the 2 9 darters, the quality, the standard?
Yeah, that's one of the matches that stand out in my head. It's got to be one of the best ones I've played, especially for the emotional aspect of the game. I had a bereavement in the family that year, and it kind of took its toll, and went up there and my mind was a blank just going up and throwing.
Is darts a relief during the dart days, maybe away from the board?
Yeah, it is. I mean, for some people you can work your anger out, your emotions and stuff like that out on a dartboard, and me, I lose myself sometimes when I'm on a dartboard practicing.
Let's go back to the nicer days, about, again, going back to 2015, and that final against Michael van Gerwen, which was a dramatic affair. It was swung back and forth. Are those the types of battles that you relish? Because watching it, there was no point where you looked and you thought, there's a clear-cut winner of this game.
No. I think he won his own sets pretty easy. I'll run mine kind of hard. Mm-hmm. But my wife calls me a pit bull with a heart of a lion, and some people call me a terrier. I just won't let go, and if I get a chance of winning it, I won't give in.
Final set, what's going through your mind?
I thought I'd just stay with him, I can peg it, and it happened.
And then you win that particular title, and the way you've won your titles as well, and the way you win things. We mentioned you always do it the hard way, but you also seemingly always get to be great players in the final. Phil for the UK Open, Michael for the World Grand Prix. So you've always had to earn the titles that you won in your career.
Yeah, but if you're going to win them, that's the players you want to beat in the finals, innit? You want to beat the world number ones at a time, and then you can turn around and say, look, I beat you in this one, and job done.
Let's talk later years then in the PDC. How would you describe the last 4 or 5 years that you were on the circuit?
I struggled. My form was in and out. I didn't practice as much, and my wife was always saying to me, you need to go and practice, and I got lazy, probably why I lost my card.
Is that possibly sometimes because when a player achieves so much, can sometimes that laziness set in? Because I suppose you've achieved it, and sometimes you can sit back a little bit.
Yeah, but you can't really sit back with the calibre of players that are coming through, and yeah, you can get lazy, and it does set in. You've got to try and motivate yourself again, and if you can't do that, then there's no way back.
When you did lose your tour card in 2020, what did you think the next step was in your career?
To be honest with you, I never even thought about it. I wasn't sure what was going to happen. I was hoping to get my card back the year after, but I just went with whatever was happening and never really planned anything.
And then certain things begin within the sport. Obviously, this was back obviously in Southampton in the studio days, and the World Seniors began. And it's fair to say with the latter, you took to it like a duck to water. The Circus Tavern the first year, winning that particular title. The 2 stars are on your shirt.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the first one where you beat Martin in the final. Going into that tournament, obviously it was the first one. It was a little bit different because you had players like yourself who just dropped off. Then you had players like Bob Anderson who were coming back and bringing that. The stage. First of all, what was that first tournament like to play? Because I can imagine it was a little bit different.
It was nerve-wracking but exciting, knowing that you're playing in the first World Seniors Championships, and then you look at the players for yesteryear and you actually get a chance to play them, and it's absolutely amazing.
So, considering you won the first one, does that add a little bit more pride? Because no one can take away the fact that you're the first to ever do it.
Yeah. There's pride there, but then to go and do it a second time, makes it more special.
You managed to retain it. How much pride is it when you've won something one year and then you're able to, the next year, back that defence up?
Oh, that's massive. That is massive. Just to show the first time wasn't a fluke, so yeah, it was massive.
What has the World Seniors done for you?
Oh, I've got more exhibitions and stuff out it, and I get down here more times, and I get to come meet people like you, Henry.
I suppose there's downsides to everything, isn't there? In terms of the Super Series, obviously you've been a big part of this project. We mentioned the Southampton days. You've been here a number of times. I keep
we're
speaking.
not going to say Saturday nights, are we?
No. Every single time we're here, we talk about Saturday. But how would you describe playing here? How would you describe your relationship with the Super Series?
I think overall it's been pretty good. I mean, I've made good shows, and there's other times I haven't made very good shows, but I mean, darts is in and out. It's all on a day.
In terms of titles, I know that the main Super Series you haven't won one yet being the operative word, but then you did win the double start tournament. The last double start tournament you had the double trouble. Importantly for you, was that kind of like a monkey off the back, knowing that you
I
have
won a
got
Saturday
one?
night. Yeah, it's like a monkey off the back. So yeah, and I'm hoping I'll be able to do a proper Saturday night.
How would you, Matt, describe Robert's career?
Weird.
Careful.
Heartbreaking for me. I've still not got over it. It's 12 years ago. I ain't
It's
got
still
over
going
it.
on.
I ain't got over it. Ruined my life that year. Do you know what? It's one of those I can spin in 2 different ways. I can either say we can focus on the positives and say what a success it was, but then we can also look at the talent that Robert's got and the mindset and say that maybe left a little bit out there and maybe a little bit more could be or could still be done in regards to adding to what is already a great CV.
In terms of the future, what does it hold for Robert Thornton?
I don't know. I'm kind of in the back here. I don't know if I want to give it one more bash. PDC. I'm kind of chomping at the bit a little bit. I've got the hunger back for the game, and we'll wait and see what the next year brings.
Is a hungry Robert Thornton a dangerous Robert Thornton?
Robert Thornton's always dangerous, mate.
Great way to finish. Robert, thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. Matt, thank you for your time as ever. Thank you for watching the Tungsten Talk here on Pluto TV.